Hello and welcome back to the S.H.E Gallery Show. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being with us. Peace. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you.
Good,
Thank you
good.
for having me.
Thank you for being with us. We are here live with you on CAN TV, broadcasting live. Please remember that you're welcome to call us throughout the segment at any time at 312-738-1060. Also, please remember that you can always visit us at our website. And that is not the website. Here it is. That's sharinghisenergygallery.com. .net. Please remember that you can always view all of the previous segments that we have had since the beginning of season 1, that's January 3rd, all the way down to season 6, which is where we're at now. Last week we had with us Milt One. He's a grassroots street artist, and today we have with us another grassroots street artist who is a very close friend of mine. We've known each other for a very long time. Some of you may remember that the story behind S.H.E Gallery was the first art exhibition was Paveway, which was the graffiti history that paved way to the street art movement. Growing up, for me in the 90s, I grew up with certain graffiti writers that were just making graffiti, doing graffiti. Then suddenly the street art movement evolved, and then moved into galleries and these spaces. And when I was in this class and asked to pretend that I could do something, this business, I said I would start a gallery and I would showcase my friends. And I did that. So the first show that we had was Paveway. Paveway was at Foxhole, Chicago in 2015. And Peace was one of the artists that I first thought about. And he was like a little embarrassed about this, but I'm going to show you. This is a piece that he did. This is super old canvas. And I need to move it closer this way. This is from December of 2003. So this is just like one of my favorite gifts that I've had. And you can see here the name is kind of hidden. So this is kind of like a sneak peek at what the street art movement turned into. So Peace, you've been a writer since the 90s here in Chicago, and then you moved into, you're also with a production, with a graffiti crew production. Mm-hmm. And some of you may remember when we had guest Maze here, and he explained how organized these crews really are with these productions, the meetings, the paints. They're actually extremely organized. So that's where you start with organizing production. So you started with organizing productions just within your crew, and then you started organizing productions, inviting other crews. So here we're talking about a curator that's curating street productions. One of the most recent production that he just produced was here in Pilsen, and it was called Spectrum. We're very excited to talk about Spectrum. Why don't you talk to us about Spectrum and how you came about this production?
Well, I mean, the idea of the Spectrum came from another idea, or at least another project that we were involved with in Logan Square. Now, that was a temporary project that we did, and I liked the idea. And for this most recent one, I've been kind of chipping away at wall space on 16th Street and taking any opportunity that I can to make something that's negative and turn it into something positive. So for this most recent collaboration of, I think it was 40 plus artists, it had to be an idea that was similar, or at least something that I can kind of pass along to everybody and easily get everybody to kind of buy into and have an understanding and support, collaborate with, and be able to pull it off. There was a couple of hiccups here and there, and of course the weather was just kind of not so much permitting from day to day, and it just seemed like there was a lot of like discouragement in the whole process. But I think by putting together the idea of the Spectrum, and then the way it kind of just aligned in, you know, the month of Pride and a lot of other things, that just kind of like made this idea seem like it was the best message to put across, to collaborate a spectrum of different artists, whether it's street artists or whether it's like older artists, graffiti artists, what have you, just a big spectrum of art that's been just kind of built up and put across one entire block. I think it was 600 feet, if I'm not mistaken, all the way across. So it just seemed impossible, but I think all in all, it came together really well. Everybody was really happy about it. There was a lot of teamwork, and I'm really happy with the outcome, and I hope that everybody else enjoys it going further.
Yeah, this is really amazing. So what Lewis did was something that really broke barriers in my eyes as far as the graffiti world, because in the graffiti world and maybe in the art world, period, there is a lot of ego, and it's especially known in the graffiti world. And what he did was really break barriers. So earlier we talked about working within crews. You work on these productions with your own crew. But here he started inviting other crews and said, you know what, you take the lead. Something that Lewis has done, it has been taken, really pushing people to take on uncomfortable roles that will really just kind of make you do things that you never thought that you would. Years ago, he had asked me, with their crew, they had a wall, these walls that they organize through the streets, so you get these permission walls. And he says, you know, there's two sides. We're going to do this wall, and then you organize the other wall. I was like, organize it? Why can't I just paint with you guys? I just wanted to paint with you guys. Like, that's what I had done. I would paint with them, not necessarily organize my own wall. And that wall ended up being organized. It just, things kind of come together. You know, you start meeting people, talking to people, you invite them out, everybody has a good time. You go with this flow. In this case, he said spectrum, so it was very organized to color. You know, and then people take joy and take pride, and that wall is still up and being enjoyed in the back of the yards community. And now, so then you're walking into Pilsen, or you're riding into Pilsen, and you started with these other smaller productions, inviting artists that normally don't work together. Forget the crews, you're just inviting people to unite. Breaking barriers, graffiti, street art, whatever. You create, let's put it together, let's put it on a wall. And then he comes to me and says, you know, I want you to help me with this production. It's a little bigger, 600 feet, a little bigger. And so we visited this wall from 16th and Walcott to 16th and Wood. And it was 600 feet exactly. And okay, how are we going to do this? You saw how dirty this place was. I mean, these streets, of anybody that's familiar with the Pilsen neighborhood and those walls, sorry, I'm trying to get out of this page. It was really dirty. I mean, you're talking about feet of grass, tall grass. So there was landscaping involved. Mm-hmm. There was dedication as far as organizing these crews. So you ended up inviting about 10 to 11 crews, productions, and then they took on the lead and organized within themselves. So it's like you curated, over-curated, gave them that responsibility. You said you're going to stick to this color, and these colors have to transition into the next color, right? Mm-hmm. You want to talk to us about some of those rules?
I mean, there's a lot of specifics that I had in mind, and of course it's hard to get everybody on the same page for what you have or what kind of thought or end goal that you want to is your outcome, and that's what made it a little bit difficult. And that's why I reached out to maybe at least 9 or 10 individuals who could then branch out and reach out to other individuals and then also involve them. So it wasn't necessarily that I had to talk to every 40 so artists. Mm-hmm. It was just the main people that were also going to help me pass the word along to bring everybody together. And what was fortunate enough is that you know, once I started having the idea together, and then once I started like talking with other people, the motivation just started to come out, and everybody was putting suggestions out there of what to do, how to organize it, how to plan it, and I think that really kind of helped me kind of put my foot out there and just kind of take more of a lead, because before that it was just a big amazing idea in my head, but I didn't really have any way of kind of putting it together and putting it out there to make such a big space look as alive as it does now. And when you talk about like how negative it looked, it really was discouraging. And when I would ride my bike through there, that would be the very last part of the wall where I was just like, all right, well, there's nothing here now, it's so not welcoming. And you know, that whole enjoyable ride that I had where I was looking at the art and riding through, it suddenly stopped. And that's where I felt like, well, this could be anybody's opportunity to make this even more of an enjoyable path to walk through. And as we were doing it, and as you know, we've continued to pass by the wall, so many different people from everywhere would come through, walk through, take pictures, and the age groups were just there were so many different variances of like younger kids to older people that would come through and really enjoy it and really were thanking us and wondered like how we organized it and what kind of funding we did. But really, it was a matter of everybody coming together and having the motivation to come up there without any expectations of being compensated, but just presenting their work, their energy, and their effort to do something big and great like this wall.
That's great. So what you're seeing now on these images are some of the older productions that he had worked on. This production that you see here was at the Logan Square wall, and I love that this keeps coming up, because earlier in the season we had Trickster One introducing Flash from ABC, who is coordinating these walls at Logan Square, and we heard just last week from Milton that he had this opportunity to create this mural for his father. And then here we have this next artist who is showing us how this idea for Spectrum came about from using those walls. Here you're seeing other productions. Here you're seeing some of the graffiti innovators from the 90s. Here you're seeing one of the pieces that you made for Paveway, which was one of our first shows here with S.H.E Gallery. And this here is, it lit up. This was a really, really cool piece. You want to talk to us about what the Wild Things and your inspiration for this piece?
I mean, that was pretty much the inspiration.
And it was really neat.
But I mean, I
and
just...
you've grown so much since then.
Yeah.
It's really creative.
From, I mean, little things like that. Even when like the window itself, I mean, it took me a while to actually put it together. And in my mind, I had like an idea to take something negative that I just found, it's just a window, and then put something positive in it. And even though I kind of procrastinated a long time on actually finishing it, I think that from the Paveway, that was like kind of a motivation, or at least a push to kind of like start something, keep going with it, and that's how that came to be. I mean, that's the story of it, but it really is just like something I started with, had no idea what I was going to do with it, and then I had like a spark of motivation to say, like, well, I'm going to finish it, I might as well see it through, and yeah, it lit up, and I don't know where it's at now. It's gone from my collection, but
we got to see it.
Hopefully it's still out there illuminating somebody's life.
At some upcoming gallery. So here we're talking about these street art productions that were smaller that now turned into a bigger production, Spectrum. We talked about where this idea came from, and it really came from a previous experience that he shared with his crew. So we're talking about sharing these small experiences, having ideas, being brave to talk about them. You know, he talked to me, you know, how do we do this? I'm not sure. I don't know where to start, but this is my idea. And there's a lot of cars on there, and I said, well, one of the things, you know, would be good to have permits so we could get permission. So thank you to the alderman who helped us with getting permits for this location, being able to set it up. All of the graffiti crews that came together, cab crew, especially cab crew, CMK crew. Well, what were some of the other crews that were involved? X-Men.
OHB, CWB, I think we had some CNS, we had some local art from Cosmo and from
Matter.
I mean, we had so many different people that come out there. That it was just amazing to kind of see, like, and what was overwhelming at one point was that people still had response and were still reaching out to me and wanted to be a part of it. And I was just like, well, we're packed. We were simply no space. But you know, I keep that in mind for other projects and other like walls that I do, so that way I can continue to work with others. Because I don't feel like this is something that I necessarily want to take just for myself or for just a group of individuals, but I'd rather like have everybody come together and keep collectively building.
And that's where I'm getting at with this, that you brought these crews together, so I say thank you to these crews, because not only did they participate, but they literally spent money. So like when we're talking about the aldermen and these productions, well, how do they do it? You know, some people write grants and get money and can produce things like this. That's really great, and some of us can't, or we just don't have that outlet or that opportunity. But somebody like you has come together and said, let's just do it because we love it. So here everybody came and everybody contributed. Everybody came. You saw those walls. I mean, the landscaping. We had issues like with a wasp, right? Like we had Obi get stung in the forehead. God bless you, Obi. So get stung on the forehead because they're cleaning this up and sorry. And then apologizing that they can't continue to help. We're talking about hours and hours of labor. Like you had people dropping off paint gallons just really, really coming together, not just with this idea, but with the actual labor, not just to paint, but the labor before it, all the physical work with organizing, meeting with him over and over, him not sleeping. I'm like, I know you're excited, but you gotta sleep, you know, with the shakes and just keep going and keep going to the point of like, I mean, yeah, we had people with heat strokes. You know, people got sick, and all because really wanted to complete this, what was supposed to be a 2-day project. So this started in June, the end of June. And again, this is a spectrum. I'm like, it's a rainbow. He says, no, it's a spectrum. I'm like, okay, it's a rainbow. It's in June. But the idea of the spectrum of uniting, and he wanted it to start from violet to violet. So it was from beginning to end to just this full circle and uniting the community the way that you have through the arts. And really inspiring because, like you're saying now, working on future productions, working with other artists, and again, breaking these barriers between graffiti artists, street artists, and crews. Just for that. So how do you feel? How did you feel when this production was completed?
Oh, I'll let you know when it is completed. It's actually, there's somebody there right now still working on it, but at least it is coming together. But I'd say for right now, I feel very achieved. I feel very proud of everybody that was involved and all the support and the outcome. I mean, without everybody else, it's not something that just kind of falls on me as doing it, but it's everybody else that had the time, effort, motivation, and just, you know, willingness to kind of be out there and do it. And now I have other, like I said, I have other artists who are just kind of like saying, like, you know, this is a really good thing, and they are seeing it as I'm only now realizing it's a lot more bigger than I thought, but people are bringing to light that this is something that it's a cool thing, and it's something that's never been done before, and something of how we should be working and how we should be doing things. And then when I think of Flash, I think that that's also like part of like an inspiration to me is that so for someone to go out there and have something welcoming, to have other writers come out and represent themselves, or just kind of spill all of their emotions into paint, just put it on a wall. Like, it just kind of seems like that's really cool. Like, I think in my era of coming up, we really never had those opportunities, and it was kind of like you know, if you come across something, or if somebody welcomes you out, you have the opportunity to paint or be a part of something. But otherwise, it's never that easy, or at least it never was before. Now it's so much more acceptable that I think it's even more so important to kind of make big movements like this, where we are kind of combining the art that we know and combining the art that's new to us and bringing it together and making something great happen.
And forcing acceptance. I think one of the really cool things about graffiti is that it's done that. All 5 of the hip-hop elements actually is forcing acceptance. And once you accept it, once you face the fear of it, because I think back at some point you looked at these 5 elements and you were afraid of them. Especially graffiti, you know, you look at these older movies and you know that you're in a scary place if there's graffiti around, you know, or vandalism or crime. You know, it was always very associated, and then you got to a point where it was accepted. Now you have marketing companies using them and really, really commercializing and capitalizing. And this is why we always go back, pay gratitude and respect to the innovators, and so glad to know them and so glad to be a part of all of this. Because as innovators, many innovators actually feel like street art owes them something. Like they won't associate with street artists. Martha Cooper, who's a photographer who will be here in July for an upcoming really cool show later on this month, she talks about this. And a lot of, you know, it's been a big war between street art and graffiti for those reasons. But once we can break these barriers and unite, and, you know, as long as I think that you continue to pay respect and remember where we come from, then I think it's super special because it's part of the evolution. So you're cultivating culture while allowing evolution to evolve. That's pretty awesome. So we talked about you with this background here in Chicago, organizing these projects, started in Logan Square, you're moving into Pilsen. Do you see yourself moving around the city or the world?
I don't know at this point.
I do.
I don't know. I'd like to move around and see the whole world, but I don't know that I'll necessarily I don't know. That's such a broad question. I can't answer right now.
Starting with these small thoughts, these small ideas, having conversations, and then you just really don't know what that can blossom into, which is really, really special. Something else that I wanted to touch on was, aside from curating street art and these art productions in the streets, what is your vision, or do you see yourself being able to curate inside of galleries? How is that different, do you feel, from curating or organizing street art than organizing or curating gallery space art? Do you feel like there's a difference with that?
There's definitely a big difference, and there's definitely a lot more efforts that I'm not even familiar with. Maybe I'd have to reach out to you. You're probably more familiar with that avenue, but
We're always learning.
I don't know. For me, right now, these things that I have been doing and these wall collaborations that I have been organizing, my end goal would be just for it to build up to something more amazing that I would ever even comprehend at this point. But I do want it to kind of be along those lines of like building up to something really extremely big that I'd be able to either participate or at least lead or organize. But that to me would be my end achievement in doing all of this.
There's no end. It will continue to evolve. I really want to thank you again for bringing our community together. I noticed that the aldermen over by Logan Square had paid attention to what Flash is doing over at Logan Square. And, I know that these type of movements will continue. I don't know how much landscapers cost, but I'm pretty sure they're not cheap. And here you brought together these crews that just wanted to paint and really cleaned up the neighborhoods. It was a beautiful thing to have so many people come by and stop and say thank you for this. We grew up around here, and really coming back even just to take photos,
Right.
just to be a part of this community. And doing it just from out of the heart, nothing to do with any type of business association, anything, really doing it for the community really shows through the art. The way that all of these artists really followed instructions, really followed the transition, the spectrum, because they really believed in the vision. And they got really creative with these productions, and we look forward to showing you the completion of these productions on our website later on this week. This segment, along with the rest of the segments that we've had in the past, always get uploaded to our website. By the time that is uploaded, we will have a video ready for you with the entire production, with some snippets from start to finish, so you can get an idea of how grand this production was. Through this production, it has allowed to build more networking, more opportunities to unite, not just within artists, but people that just admire the work. We had photographers that had met you at previous productions that were so interested that came out to this production because you invited them. Not only did he organize this wall production with the artist, cleaned it all up, but also had like a taco man and a burger man and a hot dog man, and again giving opportunity to his friends, small business. Hey, you want to come bring out your tent? This is what we'll be. And really neighborhood cookout. It was a really, really good time. Sunny days, even through the rain, people would sit in their cars, wait for the rain to pass, re-energize. I felt like that was kind of needed too, because everybody was so exhausted. Really coming together. He actually came to help me. I have a character, so S.H.E Gallery was invited to be part of this production. And sometimes, again, you don't always have to work with your members or with your crew. Sometimes it's okay to work with other people, and that's what this is about, to unite and bring communities together through the art. So that's really special. But in that transition also, those photographers had continued to keep in touch with us. Yesterday we had our monthly critique meeting with S.H.E Gallery, and he shows up with more interest, wanting to learn more, and we just continue to expand like the snowball effect of goodness and creation. So thank you so much for doing that and for being with us. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience? Any advice or words of encouragement or inspiration?
No, I don't really have that much on my mind. I mean, aside from everything I've been doing, I just look forward to having more welcoming opportunities to come my way, and just having more doors open up so that we can keep paving the way, so you say.
Paving the way. It started in 2015 and way before that. Really quick before we leave, I know we only have 1 minute left, but I really wanted to share this. When he was sharing with me the idea of how this came together, and he does do a lot of traveling, he was sharing to me something that they do in Germany.
No, it's a Swedish thing.
It's a Swedish thing. I'm so sorry. The fika cookie. For those of you who are not familiar, there's this thing. It's called a fika cookie,
Not
and no
cookie,
matter
not the cookie.
what is it,
It's just a fika.
it's a fika. It looks like a cookie.
No. I had one thing, but the actual thing is a fika. But you take it away. Go ahead. Explain it.
And you're kind of forced to make peace when you are in the presence of the fika.
It's like breaking bread.
It is breaking bread. Thank you so much for being with us. We look forward to being with you next week. Thank you so much for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye.